Welcome to the Wings Over New Zealand show with Dave Homewood.
Welcome to the Wings Over New Zealand show. I'm your host, Dave Homewood. And
Oh,
joining
thanks
me,
for having me, Dave.
joining me today is Malcolm Laird from Ventura Publications. How are you, Malcolm?
I'm very well, thanks, David, and thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. Now, let's start at the beginning. Whereabouts were you born and grew up?
Oh, okay. I was born in 1956 in Upper Hutt. I'm one of four children. I have one older sister, two younger brothers. And at about age 7 or 8, we moved to Invercargill following my father's job. He worked for the post office.
Yeah.
And then in 1966, I think we came back to Wellington, where my parents bought a house in Lower Hutt. They bought in a house where we could go to our primary, intermediate, and high schools by walking. So that was rather fortuitous. So
Okay.
that's my origins. And my
Right.
first ever job was with the Ministry of Transport as an accounts clerk.
Okay. Okay. So the reason you're on the show is your Ventura Publications has been in the past a model manufacturer. You're a decal manufacturer. You're a publisher of aviation books. So where did the aviation thing start for you, and what was your inspiration to get into all this?
Um, I suppose, like a lot of boys, I bought model kit sets at the local sort of the equivalent of a $2 shop from years ago. I
Yep.
think it was called Mackenzie's or something like that.
Yep.
And yeah, first model kit set I had would have been when I was about 6 years old. What was given to me by an older cousin, and I thought, oh, this is amazing. So, say 5 years after that, say they, I don't know, 10 or 12 or something. 10, I began regularly building model planes and building them and smashing them up.
As you
Doing
do.
Yeah, as you do, yeah. And then maybe as a teenager, I thought I'd try a bit harder and then lost interest around age 16 or so. And then in my early 20s, I sort of got reinterested as a winter hobby.
Yep.
And at the time, say it's, I don't know, 1980-ish, um, I I looked at the early vac form kits and thought, oh, I'm sure I can do better than this. Some of them were terrible.
Yeah.
And I'd always had, like a lot of Kiwis, the idea of, oh, I'd love to be my own boss. So I started off Falcon first in 1981 and made vac forms. I'll just hold up a kit.
Sure.
This this here, this is a Martin Baker MV5 by Falcon. I
Oh,
made
right.
did the origination work for this, and this model is actually built by Dave Stewart, that some people in Auckland may have heard of.
Right,
So
right, right. And he built a
yeah,
lot of the models that are in the New Zealand Warbirds Museum.
yeah. I mean, this is typical vac form stuff. I mean, you look at it now and think, God, to think that was the best available in 1981 or two. It seems bizarre, but well, it was true. And
Yeah,
then in 1985, I moved to doing decals and what have you. And just as a little indication of how the market's changed, the first lot of decals I did, I think, were printed 1,000, and they eventually all sold. Now we do 150, and they don't sell out. So we
wow.
just it's really like a public service, and it's a good thing that I'm sort of more or less retired. So
Wow.
it's completely different. There's just so much stuff. But that's the reason I do RNZAF, is that it's my personal interest,
Yeah.
and it feels like you're doing a public service as well
Well,
as trying to. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, definitely it is because there's not that many manufacturers of decals out there that do the RNZF stuff, and a lot of them who have over the years have got it really wrong. They haven't done the research or that sort of thing, and you are very good at doing the research and getting them right. Plus really good quality decals as well.
Thanks for that, Dave. They're printed by a company called BOA Decals in the excuse me in the Czech Republic, and
Okay.
they have refined and improved their process over the years. And they really are They really are good now. Maybe not quite cartograph, but getting close.
Right. Can you actually tell me a little bit about the specifics of a decal? What what is the actual decal made from? I know that it's on paper and it's like a
Oh,
plastic film, but tell me.
sure. Well, I'll just describe my origination process and then the printing process.
Yeah.
I mean, I draw them on screen. I still use Adobe Freehand, which was Macromedia Freehand before that, and Aldus Freehand before that. So I bought my first Macintosh computer in 1992 or three, and now I still keep some obsolete Macintoshes going. Macintoshes that would have been the latest model in 2000 and say 2008. And just because I still like using freehand, as it's a very clean interface, it gives good results. But I open the files in Adobe Illustrator, resave them as Illustrator, and send them to the printer. So, it's typical vector art drawn in layers on separate layers, each layer being a color. And water slide transfer printing, sure, it's got some absorbent paper. It has to be paper that's not going to actually expand when it gets wet, because the printing process is printing, the ink is wet when it goes on.
Right.
So yeah, a decal paper with some kind of gum on it. You don't know what the gum stuff is, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you print on a clear layer. I've actually forgotten what the clear layer stuff is. Someone else out there might be able to make a comment. So there's the clear layer, and then just oil-based inks are printed as the colors. And the only thing that's slightly unusual, I suppose, is that the white layer is printed twice. Up until maybe, I don't know, say the mid-1970s, the white was lead white, which is really opaque.
Yeah.
But the current white is a titanium white, which is a whiter white than lead white, but it's not quite as opaque. So apart from the double printing of white, it's probably a process that's been around for, well, decades, 100 years, but, a long time.
Okay. I've learned a lot just in that, because I always assumed that the clear part that the decal was printed onto was part of the paper. That's, you started as I didn't realize you print the clear on as part of the process. So
Oh,
that's,
you can, if you're a guy just wanting to make his own decals, you can buy, I think it's called Decafix Mark One,
yeah.
but it may be a redundant trade name now. But the Mark One paper had a clear film on it, and Decafix Mark Two, which that may be a redundant product now as well, but that just had the gum. And so the more commercial decal printers printed on the clear as well as the colors.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
And the actual quality over the years. I mean, I haven't been a modeler for a long time, but I do remember back in the sort of 1980s, 1990s when I was a modeler, you got some really ropey decals that would, as soon as you put them in the water, they'd split, or um, some of them there'd be one color that was printed off center, or but the quality now, I keep abreast of it. I like looking at models. I just don't know. I don't have the time to do it anymore. But it really has refined, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess the machinery's improved, the stability of the paper, the stability of the printing screens. I guess it's just like anything, it's just improved over time.
Yeah.
And silk screen printing, it's now, I presume the filament in the screen is now, maybe it's mylar, or some really stable, fine material. I'm not actually sure what it is, but it sure won't be silk anymore. Some really stable kind of monofilament woven into a screen. And
Right.
I understand one of the anomalies is that the fineness of the screen can get too fine, and the screen should be fine enough such that it will hold the printing screen material, which is, it has to stick to the screen, but the ink has got to get through the screen. And so the fidelity of your decal is more predicated on the stability of the edge of the exposed film rather than the fineness of the screen. Which I think, all
Okay.
right, you sort of learn these things, think, oh, it stands to reason, but I'd never really thought about that
No.
until maybe a decade or so ago.
Yeah, same here. That's interesting stuff. I mean, you look at it, decals and you just sort of cut them out and put them in the water and slide them on. You don't really think about how they're made, so that's amazing.
Mm.
But what
Yeah, I
was the
guess
first model that you actually built when you were young? That one that you got given?
it was a Bristol Bowfighter,
Oh,
and there was, I think they were called oh boy, a Lincoln toy. There was some brand back then, and
right.
they came in a plastic bag with a little clip top on it. It would have been about 100th scale. It may have been, no, I think it was Lincoln. I don't think it was the RSL Classic brand, which is the first time I found kitsets, say, oh, I don't know, say in the early 70s that were the ones I bought in the early 70s were reboxed monogram kits on
Right.
the RSL Classic brand, and some of them were, they were state of the art because this New Zealand company imported molds from other parts of the world, notably Monogram in the States, and ran the molds here. So they were good kits. Mm.
Oh, right. I never realized that Lincoln was a New Zealand company. That's interesting.
Well, that's my recollection from age 10, remember, Dave?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it makes sense because do you remember Toll Toys as well? They were doing that with the FX kits back in the 80s.
The name Toll Toys rings a bell,
Mm.
but I do
I've got some
remember
in
from
my
time
cupboard
to.
that have been unbuilt with the Toll Toys brand on them.
Oh, okay. Well,
Mm.
they might be collector's items now. You
I
never
know.
know.
They're exactly the same box as the FX, but it's got "Made in New Zealand by Toll Toys" just
Oh.
printed on it. So I've kept them just in case they can buy me a house someday.
Actually, I've got to say, I don't recall seeing such a box, but maybe I bought them, built them, and test
Didn't
flew them with my younger brothers. Who knows?
Yeah, and didn't realize because you just assumed they were FX.
Well, yeah, they would have just been model kit sets and was
Yeah,
happy to have some fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned you started Falcon, and Falcon is renowned for the canopies. Were you doing the Falcon canopies, or was that after you sold the
That's all
business?
Tory. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that like anything, you kind of get a bit burned out on it after a while. Then
Yep.
someone takes over and they see what you've done and they've got the new idea. But one of the methods when I owned Falcon of getting the mold, the surface of the mold to look good and the plastic to really closely fit to the mold when you drew the plastic into the mold with a vacuum,
Yep.
but not have it stick and go glossy, was to finely sand the surface of the mold and to have the air evacuation holes right on the intersection lines between panel lines
Yep.
scratched into the surface. And when Tor took over, he he sort of perfected that to make the canopies. And that the key method, the key reason why the canopies and the kits before that mold so well, is that the surface of the mold is actually not polished. It's got this very fine, say 2,400 grit or grade paper sort of passed over it. So there's this film of air just at the surface of the mold, and the holes to evacuate the air are on the corners of little panel lines
Yep.
and canopy frames, so you're not aware that they're there.
That's interesting. My dad used to do a bit of vacuum forming because he had a model company as well. It wasn't for little aircraft like we're talking about. He did RC stuff, and he
Mhm.
would do the canopies, and he even did some racing boats. He had quite a big machine, and I used to help him with it. But I think he used to polish his actually, but I guess it probably didn't matter in the bigger scale.
It could be that he was male molding them so that the like the seam side of the result was not touching the mold, and so
Yeah,
hence, uh,
that's a
um,
good point. He was male molding most of his
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So
Yeah,
male
so you
molding.
took, yep, sorry.
Sorry, yeah. Like when you buy the vacuum forming plastic, it may be different now, but in 1980s when I was buying it, one side of the plastic was already glossy and the other side was matte. So
Yes.
in your father's case, he would draw the matte side of the plastic up against the mold, and
Yep.
the glossy side would be the outside that you saw. Whereas with the model airplanes, I would draw the matte side of the plastic down onto my matte mold, and that meant that the air was drawn out thoroughly
Right.
all throughout the process. And I
Right.
would like had a method of you had the mold on this platen and the heaters they slide back and forth up above. I'd heat the plastic, wait for it to sag, and then you'd quickly bang the sheet of plastic in a frame down on top of the mold. So it would form a raised bubble and then it'll be snapped down onto the mold. So you'd go from this formed bubble, bang, down onto the mold, and the air will be sucked out rapidly.
Yep.
And this creating a bubble of plastic before you snapped it down on the mold, this reduced the tendency to get really thick or really thin areas. I mean, you couldn't
Okay.
cure that problem, but it reduced it to some extent.
Okay. Did you build the vacuum forming machine?
Yes,
Yeah.
I built it.
Yeah. Yeah. Dad built his one as well, and
Yeah, I mean
I know. I remember
they're
his.
pretty simple. They're pretty simple, Dave.
They are pretty simple. I remember he got really good at it, but in the early days, it came with a lot of swearing. O- Often a nice clear canopy would go crazed in one corner, and he's
Oh, okay. Oh, actually, that's an interesting point in that he would have been molding with acetate.
yes,
Interesting.
it was.
Yeah, when I first molded the canopies for the very first vac forms, the acetate, well, it was acetate, and it had a problem. If you overheated it, it would go yellow, and then it would just get bubbles all through it.
Yeah.
But I would say let's say within 6 months of me starting, that was replaced with PETG. Um, whatever PETG stands for, like polyethyl
Ethylene.
something or other.
Yeah.
But it was crystal clear. It would take more heat before it failed,
Ah.
and I was so relieved when that product became available, because I just went in one day and the company, I think it was Tingy's in Wellington, that sold the stuff in these
Yep.
big rolls, and I'd go and buy 20 meters off a roll. I think I think when Tor was doing his canopies, he was using so much, he'd go and buy the whole roll.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just went in one day and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't got acetate anymore. We've got this stuff." And I said, "Oh, I hope it's still good enough." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll give it a go."
Yeah.
And then within a day, I was overjoyed of this far improved product. It was just so superior.
Oh, excellent. Maybe
Yeah,
that's why Dad's one's got better.
sorry, just to finish that little story, this PETG, like modern day Coke bottles are made out of it.
Yep. Gotcha.
Mm.
All right. So, with the decals, from start to finish, what's the sort of process? You obviously have to come up with an idea of what you want to do and what normally inspires you.
Well, yonks ago, when I was actually trying to make a living at it from 1985 to I don't know, say early 2000s, I would make whatever I thought would sell the most. And sort of obviously did lots of Luftwaffe,
Yeah. Yeah.
God. But now, it's a different kettle of fish. And I just do RNZAF. I'm mainly interested in World War II,
Yep.
and I just do it because I personally think this is really cool. And if other people think that's okay and buy some, well, that's fine too. But so I don't have any commercial idea behind my choices anymore. It's just personal interest and to some extent just bloody mindedness, actually.
Right. 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 So you come up with an idea, and then you've got to go and research that particular type of aircraft
Um,
and the paint scheme.
yeah, well, yonks ago that was the case, but these days I've sort of already got the information because I'm interested personally.
Yeah.
And I had to draw color side views for the first Ventura Publications books, so that just per chance, I'd already perfected doing color side views to a good enough standard. I mean,
Yep.
my profiles are good enough for a book or a decal, but there's plenty of people who do it to a much higher standard than me as a bona fide artwork, whereas mine are good enough, they look okay, and they get the information across. Yeah, so I don't really have to research things over and above just picking up my own library and flicking through the pages.
Right. Okay. Okay.
It's not really an arduous task, and yeah, that's it.
Okay. Um, and you'll normally have several topics on a decal sheet. So does it sometimes get hard to choose what to put on and what not to put on?
Um, I suppose the main thing along those lines is that the printer prints a sheet of decal that is, I think it's what two, I think it's 220 by 300 millimeters,
Yeah.
and that there, it's become really expensive over the past few years. But of course, thankfully, his quality has gone up to match. So my sheets now are actually quite small, but even in 48 scale, you can still get about four subjects on a sheet. So it's still reasonable value.
Right.
And the main issue is that if you're going to print, say, let's say you're printing 8 colors, you want to make full use of those colors. So, for example, maybe, well, must be 4 or 5 years ago, I did sheets for 48th and 72nd scale Avengers and Dauntlesses, and the color brown was there and pink, and I think there might have been 2 or 3 shades of blue. So
Yeah.
you're trying to line up a range of options that will fill out the size of the decal paper that is being printed and make best use of the colors that you're printing. So that's another way of getting around the issue of the expense of so many colors. You'll see in some of my sheets there will be a sheet of just black
Yeah.
or a sheet of just, say, blue and white. So I'll print 200 by 300 millimeter sheet with, say, 6 decal sheets worth of blue and white or black, and then the other multicolor printing of, say, 8 colors will mean that I'm getting best use of all the colors I'm paying to be printed. So
Okay.
in my sheets, you'll see there might be 2 decal sheets, one of which might just be black serial numbers or something.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. One of the things that I guess is quite difficult, but you've got a lot of experience with is interpreting black and white photos to work out what the colors are on the aircraft. And I know we've had discussions over the years with various colors and
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, because I'm not a modeler anymore, I come from a different uh, angle of a historian who asks questions about these things to the veterans when I was talking to them and getting
Mm.
some ideas. And I remember one that was quite controversial at the time, but was the Ventura, the PV1 Ventura Slippery Sam, and your decal had the Slippery Sam written in red.
Oh, that's
And
correct. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah. And the veteran that I talked to, who was the air gunner on that aircraft, and they flew it all the time. He said it wasn't red, it was yellow. He said we didn't put any red markings on the aircraft because anything red, the Americans would shoot us down because would just assume it was Japanese.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, shall I run over why I chose red
Yeah,
initially? And
yeah,
then I think in later printings I did multiple options to
you
cover
did, which
any
is
sort
good.
of outcome. Fortunately, it was just the nose art, which was a tiny portion of the decal sheet.
Yeah,
But on the there's a really well-known photograph of Slippery Sam. It's really clear and well printed, and you can see the propeller blade tip. And I surmise that the propeller blade tip was yellow, and you could see the Slippery Sam, and the inner part of Slippery Sam was a lot darker than the tip of the propeller blade, even accounting for sunlight and any issues that I could think of in my head.
yeah,
So well, if the tip is really looks either white or yellow, this Slippery Sam, he's just got to be red with white outline, because the white outline on the well-known photograph is really white.
it is.
Yeah. So that's why I went for red and white initially. However, once I think it was actually you who brought me up to speed on the interview you did with the veteran.
Yeah,
Then the next print run of that decal sheet, I introduced the extra options.
options. Yeah, and interestingly, looking into that, there's one photo out there of Slippery Sam with the guy standing next to it. I think next to it. It doesn't have the white outline.
Yeah, I think on the most recent decal sheet, which is now sold out, by the way, I think I might have provided uh, three or even four options.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean,
it's quite possible that it may have been red, and then when they went up to the Pacific, they repainted it with the white outline and yellow. Because
uh,
who
oh
knows? Who knows?
yeah,
But
anything's possible. I think in some ways you think, well, I'm on a hiding to nothing here. I just
yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I
Actually,
always, when I see things like that, I always get worried that people will think I'm just a grumpy old bastard who's, trying to make trouble for people. But
yeah.
I'm not. I'm just, I've actually, talked with the veteran, and he was adamant that
Mm.
no, he wouldn't have put red on there. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, what modelers love that stuff. And it's modeling as you're trying to make an accurate representation.
yeah,
But I know just for anyone listening, I mean, Dave can actually see me, I think, but your camera isn't working. I'd like to show you a page in the Pacific Kittyhawk book that's got is a pair of photographs of a P40Ks uh, on Norfolk Island, where the colors, if you didn't see the two photographs together, you'd think these have got to be different colors.
yeah,
So I'll just do that now,
sure,
and you can, if it doesn't work out or it's not suitable or whatever, then so for anyone who's got the book, it's page 24, and the top photograph, you'd look at the blue in the fuselage roundel and you think, wow,
yeah,
that's really dark blue.
dark,
And down below, you think, oh, that's a medium blue, just like we believe it to be. And of course, those planes were painted in the same factory, or sorry, at not factory, at
at the
Hobsonville,
assembly, yeah,
maybe by the
absolutely,
same painter from the same pot of paint on the very same day, yet they look different. And
yeah,
in both cases, the yellow outline on the roundel is lighter than the blue, which tends to indicate that there may have been a photographic filter that was different, but I don't believe the lower one is orthochromatic film, as in those cases, the yellow and the blue, or sorry, the yellow tends to look darker than the
dark,
blue.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just one of those things of it. I think it doesn't pay to overthink these things. And
Yeah, and
you know,
actually one of the other things that I learned from veterans, and one guy told me this to start with, and he just mentioned it while I was interviewing him, and so I quizzed him on it, and that is up in the islands, he said we were very proud of our roundels because everywhere else you looked there were American roundels, and he said we loved our Kiwi roundels, and everything up in the islands with the coral dust getting blasted from the propellers onto the aircraft, it would quickly wear the paint out. Plus, if it had been painted like a repaint, or the roundels and markings were New Zealand made paint, it was really inferior paint. It was made by BALM um, paints here in New Zealand. It was a really inferior paint because they couldn't get what they needed to make the paints because of the war, and so
sure.
it wore out really fast compared to the factory applied paint. And he said it would fade really quickly up in the island, sitting in the sun all day, um, being blasted by sand and coral, and all that kind of thing. And he said that, um, and I had heard before from other veterans that a lot of the blue would fade to a faded blue from the original dark blue. Now you look at that top picture, that's got the dark blue, which would have been as it's been applied. Now this what this chap said to me was, um, if any of us on the servicing unit had downtime, we would normally grab a pot of paint and a brush, and we'd walk around and look for any aircraft that were looking badly faded, and we would touch up the roundels. So those ones may well have just been touched up, uh, repainted to look. I mean, that might have been a faded one in the bottom. We just don't know, of
Uh,
course. But
oh,
there's all
that's
these
the
little
point.
anomalies.
Sorry to interrupt, but that pair of photographs on in the book, that is on the first group of ferry flights up to the islands. So those aircraft, the top photograph, that's photographed on the 26th of March from the very first group of aircraft,
Yeah,
and the one underneath, that might be a day or so later, but they're both factory fresh
Yes.
applied roundels.
Right. So they
That's the
should
point I'm
be.
making, and that they just
Yeah.
look different, but they really are the same color and they are newly applied.
Absolutely. Yeah. I get that. Um, it's interesting. A lot of decal manufacturers over the years would make New Zealand RNZF Pacific decals as this really bright sort of Cambridge blue, and that's not right. Your ones are right. And
Well, we aim to please.
yeah, uh, that's another thing I got from veterans just chatting with them about the colors is and as I say, I wasn't even a modeler. I was just interested in the colors because this sort of stuff always comes up. But that New Zealand paint that they used when they applied the roundels, it would be dark blue, just like an RAF roundel blue when it was put on. But over a matter of only a couple of months, it would be faded to the point where it looked like a medium blue. But it never went to that. It never got that bad to look like that pale blue that a lot of the overseas decal makers have made out of it.
Yeah. Actually, in the Pacific Kittyhawk book, I cover that off, and that uh, in the 1960s, early to mid 60s, Charles Darby was asked to help Profile Publications, and he gave them some information about Wairarapa Wildcat.
Yep.
But the information that he gave them was from his personal observations of the wreck at Rukahia. And that's also where I think the faded blue comes from there, was
Yep.
they have misinterpreted the information that he gave them. And also the idea that the white Pacific stripes sometimes had these red bars on either side,
Oh yeah.
red bands rather.
Yeah.
Apparently that one aircraft for a war bonds tour, Victory Loans, whatever they were called, where the Corsair Mark Corsair and a Kittyhawk flew at air shows, apparently, this is according to Robert Montgomery, that aircraft did have these dark red stripes applied alongside the theatre type markings, but that was a one-off and just for that promotional tour. So,
Right.
you had the Corsair with Corsair painted on it,
Yep.
and you had the Kittyhawk that jazzed up a bit with these red bars. So I think Charles Darby has given Profile Publications his observations of this aircraft, and they have taken that late and post-war information and reinterpreted it as if it was 1943 with Wairarapa Wildcat on the side.
Yeah, exactly. And he was going to Rukahia in the mid '60s.
Yeah.
And so they've had 20 years of sitting there fading, and most of the paint was gone by the mid. Not most of, but a lot of paint was faded back by
Yes.
then. If you look
Yes.
at the coloured photos, so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tricky business.
Yeah. And that incorrect information's been it's just been permeated down through the years, and
Yeah.
was sort of baked in as the truth for maybe 20 or 30 years
Yeah,
overseas.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm glad that it's now gone the other way and people are starting to do it right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Still, I wouldn't be personally, I don't feel super dogmatic about the actual shade of blue for the very reasons you've spoken about, and
Mm,
that it started off as kind of a medium dark blue, and then or a dark blue, and then 6 months later it just wasn't anymore.
exactly, exactly. If you're going to put really light, worn-looking roundels on it, you want to have a very weathered aircraft model, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you're having a nice pristine one, the
Hmm.
darker would work better.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you got a favorite of the decal sets that you've produced over the years?
Um, Not really, no. No, no. Um, no. One decal that I quite enjoyed doing was the Mobile Mustang,
Oh
and
yes.
I did that in all three scales. Interestingly, people have been reasonably enthusiastic about it in 72nd and 48th, but I think of the 150 printed in 32nd scale, I think I've given about three away and maybe three more have sold. So,
Wow.
so
Okay.
anyway, it sort of doesn't really matter because, well, no, I'm just going to do it anyway. I think
Yeah.
my friend in Christchurch, Anthony Galbraith, was going to build a model in 32nd scale if I did the decal. So I said, no problem, Anthony. It's on the way.
Perfect. He does great models.
Oh yeah, you can find his model on Facebook somewhere. It's pretty good, all right.
Yeah. Oh well, you might get a few more sales out of this.
Maybe. Yeah.
What are the biggest markets? Well, back when you were doing it professionally rather than more as a retired decal maker.
I'll just talk about the kitsets a little bit. I'm just going to reach over here.
Yep.
Get a couple of bits. Kitset markets was quite a tricky one. Oops. Sorry, I touched my microphone then and turned you off.
Oh.
So, like in the kitsets, you do the origination work, you make the plastic parts.
Yeah.
Tune out your parts. And this is a model of the Kika 48th scale Ventura kit. It's actually built by Alan Salazaro, who's now in Australia.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But like,
he had the model shop
this kit sold, this kit sold really well in Japan. And I did it because they placed quite a good order in 1986. And, that was sort of like the best injected kit I ever did.
Okay.
Because, they had an order and I could afford to put some extra effort in. And, I really sort of massaged it for a long time.
Right.
But for things like Spitfires, that was kind of worldwide, but mainly in the UK. And when the first Spitfire kits came out, I think I did 3 or 4 in quick succession. There was a period of about 18 months where I just got up every morning, ground out kit sets and sent them to the UK. But that tapered off after that. And eventually, like I did the Kika that I showed you for the Japanese market, but elsewhere it was, quite a plodding sort of thing.
Yeah.
But as time went by, perhaps from the early to mid-90s onwards, far better kits were coming out, and we're just getting knocked over left, right, and centre. But Spitfires and 72nd scale sort of kept me in bread and jam for a wee while. That was for sure.
I remember I bought one of your Mark 11 Spitfires, the PR11, and built that. And this has got to be mid-90s, I guess. But at that stage, it was the only one you could get, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, once you'd wrestled the parts off the God, I won't call them sprues, call them trees.
Yeah.
You really had to wrestle them off.
Yeah.
But once you sort of got everything off, it was okay.
Yeah. That was a good kit. I liked it.
Sorry, I've just got to put the Kika somewhere where it's not going to slide off.
Okay.
There we are. Yeah. I mean, it was real cottage industry stuff.
Yeah.
With the kit sets. But moving forward.
I was going to say, how did you do the plastic molding for those?
Oh, I built an injection molding machine, and the key to it was that with low pressure, if you had a long barrel with a small bore, the amount of pressure to move that plastic was not that great. But if you had like a commercial machine where you had quite a large bore, you had to use a lot of pressure to move the plastic, simply because the plastic was a larger diameter molten tube of plastic. And fortunately, one of my brothers had a friend who still worked for an engineering shop where he knew the guy called in a favor. And I took him 2 identical bronze bars. A really thick bronze bar was about 1 meter long, 2-inch diameter bronze, and the identical material in, like, I think it was off the top of my head, 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
And this guy bored out made a barrel out of this really big big cylinder of bronze, and the 2 materials, one would slide inside the other. The idea being that as the bronze expanded and contracted with the molten plastic, they would do that at the same rate. So as it turned out, it fitted snugly, it slid smoothly, and I never had any issues with binding because the materials of the barrel and the ram going into it, they were the same material. And it was all hydraulic. Sorry, not hydraulic, it was pneumatic.
Pneumatic.
Just using air pressure, which was a nice simple technology. and didn't make a mess on the garage floor if things went wrong. It was all fairly Heath Robinson, that's for sure. But hey, it worked and was good enough. Good enough for a cottage industry.
What was the plastic source? What was the original?
Oh, well, it's high impact styrene.
Yeah.
And I actually bought my supply from Croxley Stationery in Dunedin, as they imported a lot of high impact styrene of varying grades to make ballpoint pens and the like.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah, so I think there might have been some other dedicated importer either before or after Croxley, but I seem to recall them being my supplier for say a decade or so. But
Okay.
I wouldn't like to say to anyone you can go to Croxley's now and
Yeah.
order up some styrene. Yeah.
So how did it come when you bought?
Oh, it comes in bags of like say 50-kilo bags, and it's full of these little chopped up granules. They're say twice the size of a grain of rice.
Okay.
And to get the color in, there was actually a company in Lower Hutt that imported all these different colored powders, which injection molding companies would use. So I just went and bought this light gray powder, and you'd pour your bag of this white translucent, all these plastic beads, shall we say,
Yep.
into I'd pour them into like a 20 or 30 litre container, add about a teaspoonful of this gray powder, and shake it for a minute or so. Just a manual process.
Yep.
And hey presto, it worked just fine. But I made a mistake once of thinking or being convinced that I should try a different color just to be different from gray. So some of the kits were tan, but within 6 months of molding a whole lot of tan items, oh no, that's not such a good idea. Modelers really want light grey because it's easier for the painting process. So
Yeah.
after a while, I went back to light grey. And if
Okay.
you perchance you have a tan-coloured Ventura Spitfire or something, well, it's a bit of an anomaly, but I'm
That's the
sorry,
collector's edition.
difficult things to paint. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. And so those little beads of plastic, you then have to heat that up before you put it
Oh
into the.
yeah, yeah. In the top of the injection barrel, it's just like a commercial injection molding machine where there's just literally a hole in the top of the barrel about halfway along,
Yeah.
and the plastic through a hopper system, it just gets metered into the barrel, and the as the injection rod or the direct injection ram pushes the plastic past all these heaters that are wrapped around your injection barrel, the plastic gets ever more molten and molten as it approaches the injection port. And you've got thermostats. I think I had two thermostats, one halfway along the barrel and one right at the tip, and they would turn the heaters on and off, just get the temperature progressing from cool to really hot.
Yeah.
And sure, the molten plastics squirted in the mold. Each mold had copper pipes cast into it, and through that I'd pass a very slow but steady flow of water to cool the plastic.
Okay.
It's all fairly cottage industry and low tech, but hey, it was good enough at the time.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you could spend a whole morning just filling it, making another one, filling it, make another one,
Yeah,
pumping
you
out the
just sit
kits.
there. After a while, my friend Rex Barker, who people will have heard of, he
Yep.
started his own little cottage industry called Tasman.
Yep.
And Rex wanted to mold kit sets. So we just came to a casual agreement. He says, oh, well, tell you what, Rex, just for every one of yours you mold one of mine. So that
Oh,
was
right.
that, we both kind of got free molding in a manner of speaking, but it cost him his time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that worked well for, I don't know, a decade or so as well. It's quite
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I had a couple of his CD4 air trainers.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the origination for that CT4, that was done by the late Rex Crawford. That will ring a bell with some people.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay. That name rings a bell.
Mm.
All right. So, how long were you making kits before you gave that up and just went with decals?
I sold the molding machine in 2008.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it had really run its course, and it's at various points while I was making kits and decals and what have you, because I got into graphic arts on, like Macintosh computers. Um, I I actually had a 30-hour a week job at a graphic arts studio in central Wellington, which actually ended up being most of my income.
Right.
And the kits slowly faded away, partly because the market was dying and better stuff was coming out, and
Yeah.
partly because, well, if I was doing 30 hours a week, churning out, you know, reports for government departments or company balance sheets or annual reports and, just general run-of-the-mill graphic arts work, and it was paying so many dollars an hour, I think, oh, that's easier money than dreaming
Yeah.
up a new kit set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And the first books came during that period as well. And yeah, the first book was Spitfire Star of Israel, where the author came out to New Zealand with he was an Israeli guy, came out to New Zealand with his South African girlfriend for, oh, I don't know, 8 months or a year.
Okay.
And we worked together on that to turn out that first short book. It was only 48 pages, but uh, yeah, that was a bit of a mission, but hey, we're all learning on the job. So, and
Had you wanted to get into books, or was it just something that came up?
I'd sort of thought about it. I thought it might have been like it might have been a really good thing to do in the long term.
Mm.
But again, the subject matter the subject matter was kind of either worldwide or it was just New Zealand interest. And yeah, I did Spitfire Star of Israel, then one called Spitfire the Anzacs
Yep.
on New Zealand and Australian subjects. A guy called Steve Mackenzie in Australia, who probably visits your website, he did the Australian subjects in that book. Again, I think we printed 1,500, so it,
Yep.
it turned out not to be much of a money-making venture, but hey, it felt good to do it. And I had a proper job at the Graphic Design Bureau in the background. Then we did two short books on American Spitfires, and then things did actually sort of become a bit piecemeal after that. And I was just churning out New Zealand subject matter, batched up with other things of interest.
Right.
But it never really took off, probably because what we were doing was better than what was in a magazine, but not by enough to call it a yeah, not by that much.
Yeah.
And none of the stories were really all that long. But that's different now with Pacific Corsair and Pacific Kittyhawk, where they are long enough to be a proper book on their subject.
Yeah. Exactly. No, that's absolutely right. And I have some of your earlier books. I've got Spitfire the Anzacs, and I've got the one that has the Kiwi Venturas in it. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
there's, but they always have a few different topics in the same book, don't they? So
Oh yeah. Essentially, that's to do with just how much material I had.
yeah.
And I think the idea that several stories in one book was a good way to go. I think that was actually a flawed idea, and that it was neither one thing nor the other. It was sort of more than a magazine, but less than a book.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I would agree with that because that you were covering topics that no one else was covering, which was really good. But then there wasn't really it wasn't really in depth. So like
quite right.
I would have loved to have seen more about the Kiwi Venturas, but then for the last 20 years I've been working on that myself and got nowhere.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. It,
but
it was sort of it was better than nothing, but yeah, I think
mm,
it actually was a flawed idea and would have been better just to persist for longer and get a proper book. Mm.
yeah, yeah. And just before we get on to the more modern books, with the Corsair and the Kitty Hawk book,
Mhm.
you've also worked with your decal designing for Wingnut Wings and Kotiri, I
Oh,
believe.
Qatari, yeah.
Kotari, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. With Wingnut Wings, Richard Alexander, he just contacted me one day and said, "Oh, Malcolm, want to have a chat with you about something." And he couldn't really tell me much, but he asked me to do a little bit of design work. I think the first thing I was asked to do was some instrument decals. I think they were testing me out. So the
Right.
fidelity of the artwork I did was so far past what you needed for a model kit set, but I wasn't really fully up to speed with what their end result was. So yeah, the amount of hours and time I put into designing these um, what became 32nd scale decals. I mean, you could have printed full size instrument panels with them. But
Right.
yeah. Anyway, I worked at home for a while part time, and I think I might have done decals for one or two of their models.
Okay.
Or, oh no, the first models that came out, the decals were drawn by the guy that did the color side views, and then yeah, then I sort of slowly took over. I might have drawn decals for one or two kits at home. It slips my mind now. It's a while ago,
Yeah.
and then I was asked to just go full time, and well, Peter Jackson's hobby became our job. So that's
Right.
fine. Yeah, it was an interesting time, and it certainly went on for quite a bit longer than I thought it would.
Right. Right. So in that respect, did you have any input onto color schemes, or were they all just presented to you and you had to draw them up?
Well, the owner of the company, Peter Jackson, was his baby,
Yep.
and yeah, I mean, he wanted to do it just because he wanted to do it.
Yep.
And I suppose that he took pleasure in deciding what subjects would be and what the kits would be. And yeah, sure. So research materials just put in front of me, and here's the five options, Malcolm. Churn them up.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, so from
And
my
he's a
perspective, it was a straight out graphic design job. There's no research involved apart from making sure that I got it right from the research material that we had available.
right. Gotcha. And he's a renowned historian of all World War One aircraft, anyway, pretty much. And of course, he owns his own fleet of aircraft,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
genuine ones and replicas. So I guess you got to trust that research because it would be good.
Um, I guess so. And also, I think Richard Alexander really made it his business
Yeah.
to do a lot of in-depth research and try and sort the wheat from the chaff. I think that was that was a really significant contribution made by Richard.
Yeah.
And also, I guess, being able to interact with the vintage aviator people, that meant that the result for the kit sets was they were tremendously good. And of
Yeah.
course, we only had one instruction, that's just make it the best you can. And on odd occasions, better material would turn up after we'd struggled mightily with limited material. And okay, so we'll just do it again and get it right with the newly researched material. There
Okay.
was no thought of good enough. Just make it the best you can. That was
Well,
pretty
that's
good.
awesome.
Mm.
I mean, the impact that Wingnut Wings had on the modeling fraternity was incredible. I mean, it took modeling, model production, like several steps above what it had been. I mean, I think the best around the world at that time would have been the likes of Tamiya and Hasegawa, uh, but there wasn't really the World War One stuff up to that level. And Wingnut Wings sort of took it even a bit further, didn't it?
Yes, it certainly did. And even if you look at the first four Wingnut Wings kits, that includes, say, the SE5,
Hmm.
and then you look down the track to, well, the later ones, say what are the Camels, for example. There's two British World War One aircraft, but the step change in quality from the SE5 to the Camels, which would have been, say, I don't know, would they be 8 years later, 10 years later,
Yeah,
quite a lot later. Those Camels were again another step change in quality. And
right.
for my small part, I suppose the decals got a bit better along the way, but not really. I mean, if you're drawing a piece of vector art or illustrating a color tone for offset printing, then it's all fairly straightforward and just a matter of plowing through.
Right, right. But I remember the first time I saw the kits was at I think it was actually their launch, the company launch was at the Amaka Air Show, um, Classic Fighters Air Show, and they had a tent there set up, and they had glass cases with the kit sitting in there, and I took some photos and I put them up on my forum, and literally within I don't know 24 to 48 hours, there was about 10,000 views on that post. I was like, what on earth? I had no idea it'd have that sort of impact. People from all around the world
Yeah,
were obviously passing the link around,
yeah,
and it just went from there. It was
yeah.
incredible.
Mm, yeah. I mean, they were so unexpected.
Mm,
There was more than one, it wasn't just one kit.
yeah.
So if you're going straight to four of something, it's not a flash in the pan. And of course, the owner of the company, people would have known straight away that, yeah, this person has got the finance not to fall over in 6 months, and also the finance to sustain it through any rough patches.
Yep.
And so it proved to be.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was brilliant. I still follow the Wingnut Wings builders group on Facebook, and
Mm,
see the amazing builds come out of there, and it's
mm,
fantastic.
mm,
And then, of
mm.
course, unfortunately, the company closed down. I think 2020 or 2021.
2020,
Yeah.
essentially with the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah. And Richard's gone on to form Kotari Models, which he and a few people, and you're involved in that.
Yes, the owner of the company is Mark Robson, who's Mark's actually a vet, but like he's one of the vets that works on lions and tigers, and you
Oh, okay.
know. He's not the $20 an hour vet.
Right.
So so he's a really top end, extremely good vet. I
Yep.
mean, there's probably a veterinary surgeon. There's probably some other way of expressing his occupation. But Mark told me I'd known him for 20 years, uh, just because he was interested in modeling and what have you.
Yep.
And he sort of said, well, I'd often wanted to have a model company. I suppose lots of people dream of it. And here's this group of people who have kind of been dropped in my lap, and they're all at a loose end. So yeah, it started with Richard, and then Darren. And near the beginning, I'd already got to retirement age really, but said, oh well, quite happy to just keep on going as required. I
Yep.
don't need a contract, or don't need an office to go to, or don't even need to have regular work. Just sure, if you need some decals turned out, happy to do it. And of course, Qatari's World War II, which was right up my alley.
Yep.
So I think the amount of time and energy spent by me on a Kotari decal, I get to the result much more quickly than with the World War One ones, which was not really a great area of interest for me personally.
Right. 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 And so, just tell the viewers the various kits that you've worked on with Kotari. I know there's a range of Spitfires. Um,
Um, yeah, I so far, I mean, because the decals don't have to be done until near the end of the gestation period,
yeah.
there are probably things being designed now which um, I haven't been asked to look at yet.
Yeah.
But the most recent thing I did was tune up the. Oh, sorry, no. The most recent thing I finished was the Spitfire Mark 5B with the American markings on it,
Right.
and the one before that was tuning up decals done for the 109 K4. We had to alter those a reasonable amount to get them to work correctly.
Okay.
But I suppose I found that fairly straightforward to do, just because of my level of experience through Wingnut. And the ones for the K4, people will see there are some offset printed items, such as the where there's been a German cross that's been sort of roughly painted over, or those roughly painted on American stars and bars.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing is offset printed over a white grounding. And yeah, that's not an inexpensive thing to do. So people should be grateful. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but you'd have asked what I might be working on, and because I don't need to be involved until quite near the end, Richard will just contact me quite near the end of a gestation period for a kit and say, okay, next up. And it might only take me 2 weeks or so to knock out the artwork. And particularly because being World War II Spitfires and the like, well, for each new variation, 75% of the work's already done. So it's
Right,
not a big deal. It doesn't take very long, and I don't need to be bought in near the beginning of the gestation period for a kit.
right. And so Richard's done all that previous research of which squadron they've decided to do and all that sort of thing.
Either Richard or Mark.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Mark's the owner of the company, and he's got his own ideas, his own style that he wants to pursue. And well, if you're paying the bills, you get to pick what the products are and what they look like. And
Absolutely.
so far, they're pretty damn good, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
well,
So well
it's
done, Mark. Well done, Richard, and
yeah,
well done,
definitely.
Darren, and the other designers out there.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
my part's fairly straightforward. Mm.
So those kits they get made in China, is it the actual plastic?
Uh, I think at the moment they're molded in China.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, if you look at the various boxes for the wingnut kits, from memory, there were some done in Korea
Okay.
and some in China. Um, but yes, you can look at each batch of plastic and see where it was made, as they'll tell you on the box.
Yeah.
But the current Kotari ones, I believe, everything so far is done in China.
Okay.
And they are very, as long as you are giving them good data and you pursue the test shotting phase assiduously, you'll get a good kit at the end.
Right.
Mm.
So I guess you personally have come from right at the beginning where you were molding your own Spitfire kits in your homemade machine, and with that the big thick trees
Yeah.
of plastic, and
Mm.
now you're working with Kotari, who's got the some of the best manufactured kits there are around. The New Zealand scene has come a long way, hasn't it, in the last sort of 20 years?
I guess so. I recall when I first went along to an IPMS meeting with the first vac form kits, and really, I hadn't got into vac forms because I thought, oh, I desperately want to do this. I
Yeah,
got into it because as a young adult, I just, I want to be my own boss kind of thing.
yeah,
And that was something I felt I could do. And it turned out that I could do it. But each step along the way, it's really just been kind of not quite make it up as you go along. But yeah, just going from one thing to another and following a natural progression, picking up skills along the way and employing those skills for others as it's been requested. So it's been quite interesting to just trundle along.
yeah, absolutely. These days, with the smaller cottage industry of models, I think one of the big things is 3D printing rather than the molding your own little run of kits.
Mhm.
How do you feeling about the 3D printing, and is this the way of the future for the small run kits?
Um, I've seen some really terrible 3D printed large items like fuselages from airplanes,
Yeah.
and that may get better in time. But now, with the printing of things like engines and figures, exhaust stacks, and what have you, the fidelity of the parts now, and also the skill of the designers, is resulting in some tremendous products.
Okay.
And of course, you've got the two different types of 3D printing, the deposition printing, like squirting plastic, one squirty layer on top of another.
Yeah.
And you've got the stereolithography, where you've got the liquid and the laser sets off layer of plastic or layer of resin one on top of the other. So now those technologies now, people are making tremendous use of them both.
Yep.
The machinery for like just hobbyists is just so good. As
Yeah.
a bit of a laugh for people listening. In 2015, I bought a cheap deposition type, as in you squirt the plastic out, 3D printer to make myself some parts for a customized motorcycle. I made some light fittings that went at the back of this bike. And
Yeah.
I paid $1,500 for this 3D printer, and I never even used an entire spool of plastic. But then that was 2015, and then in
Yeah.
2023, or yeah, 23, I sold the machine and I got $54 for it. So it just it shows you how much that improved.
Yeah.
And some guy just bought it so his kids could have a play.
Oh wow.
Just the way it goes. Yeah.
That's technology all over there, isn't it? Although I think maybe if you've still got those early Macintosh computers that are still going, they might actually be worth something, because I know there are people out there that collect early
Oh, okay.
early computers that still
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
I
I still use there are a big silver blocks model called the Macintosh Pro, and they would have
Mhm.
been the current model, maybe say 2008. I'm not sure when they changed to a later model. But the
Right.
reason why I buy these particular machines is they're the most modern ones where I can still use the Adobe freehand software, and I will grudgingly change to Adobe Illustrator when I have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just keep buying these old silver Macintoshes to run my preferred software, as it's a nice, simple, clean interface. And you're quite right that some of the older computers, if you're drawing vector art on screen, I mean, a vector art piece of art doesn't matter what the machine you drew it on, it's still a piece of vector art. And if
Yeah.
you can turn out a PDF, then you can print from it. So that's it's good technology that's served a lot of people for a long time, including myself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just getting back to the books. Have you have you seen some that have become quite collectible because they're rare and hard to get? Some of your books.
The only ones that have gone down that route would be the two that we did on PR Spitfires. I did those in unison with a chap named Wojtek Matusiak in Poland.
Yeah.
He is a linguist by profession,
Okay.
and he was interested in Polish World War II aviation. So his English is like better than mine. And he wrote the of those two books, if you've ever seen one is about based around the history of PR Spitfires.
Yeah.
The other one is like detail and scale type of thing with the details of them. He did the history one, and the I did the camouflage and markings. Oh, sorry, we both did the camouflage and markings content, and I did the detail type stuff for the interior details,
Right.
because I had obtained uh, a photocopy of a PR Spitfire maintenance manual, which had all these exploded views and all kinds of stuff in it. And we printed, I'm not sure it was 1,000 or 1,500, whatever the number we printed, they sold out over a short number of years. But my agreement with the Polish author Wojtek was that I would print the first, say, let's say at 1,000.
Yeah.
And then if he wanted to pick up on it from then on, then he could print and do more in Europe after that. But I mean, I could reprint the one on the detail and scale, but I'm not really of a mind to. I've
Right.
sounded Vortek out by him picking up on it or even giving me permission to update and do more. But I think that he would want to really update the history part of it, because it's already what, 15 years, maybe even, well, maybe it's even 20 years out of date now. And,
Right.
so much new stuff comes along. But I think
Yes.
he's just got other fish to fry. And he may pick up on it at some stage, but, that's Vortex's prerogative. So that's the only one that's hard to find. But if
Okay.
people do want to try and track down the Ventura Publications book on PR Spitfires, and I think, is it ABE Books in the UK is your
Yep.
best starting point.
Yep. That's a good place to track down any rare book.
Yeah.
Um, so whilst you were writing some of these books, you've managed to collect some really good stories from veterans as well, and that's something that I guess you must have enjoyed meeting and interviewing veterans over the years.
Sure. Interesting there. The first veteran I spoke to was Roy Buchanan, who had been a wing commander in the RAF, and he had been on PR Spitfires. So I think, I'm not sure if a wing commander in PR Spitfires commanded a PR wing or he commanded a squadron with all of the PR, um, the photographic part of it as well. I can't quite
Yeah.
recall now.
Yeah.
I'd have to actually read. I'd have to read Spitfire, the Anzacs again to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
So that was in the 1980s, and that was when you had to copy photographs, which every time you copy a photograph manually or with a camera, it degrades.
Yes.
But when the computers came along, and I got my first Macintosh and scanner in call it 1992 or three, it's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
At that point, I could take my scanner to someone's house, set up and scan their photographs and not have the quality degraded.
Right.
So I began doing that from, say, 1992 or three through to around 2003. But in 2003, I went to interview two men in succession who had got to the stage of life where I felt I was no longer feeling what they were saying was reliable,
Right.
as they just they were just getting too old,
Yeah.
and things were getting a bit hazy. So I just thought better of it from that point onwards,
Right.
and again just began making the best of what I'd collected. And more recently, with the Air Force Museum putting more of their archive up online, that's a tremendous starting point for anyone doing
Yes.
RNZAF World War II books of any type.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, the collection that's coming out of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
archive there.
yeah. So maybe in the books that I did in the 90s up to, oh, I think the last classic Warbirds might have been 2010 or something. A fair number of the photos in there would be ones that I scanned from personal collections.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the two, the Pacific Corsair and Pacific Kittyhawk, the majority are from the Air Force Museum, with a
Right.
small number being ones that I'd scanned from people that I'd interviewed.
Right. 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 Just before we get to the newer books, you did a book on the Dauntless as well, didn't you? I think.
Oh, the Dauntless book that you're thinking of, I think, would be by Phil Lesterman. It's had a white cover, and he was a Frenchman who did a series of books on various World War II aircraft and RAF squadrons and Australian squadrons, and 485 squadron. But
Yeah.
he contacted me, I don't know, say year 2000-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, something like that. Just told me what he was doing, and I agreed to do his color profiles. And then he wanted to do a Dauntless book, and of course, the late Cliff Jenks had written a significant article for the Aviation Historical Society,
Right.
which I already had that article in my possession, and Cliff had given me. I'd visited Cliff at his home,
Yeah.
and he'd already given me carte blanche. Just use it as you see fit, Malcolm.
Ah. Okay.
Just get the stuff out there any
Yeah.
way you can.
Yeah.
So when it may be that Phil Lesterman had contacted Cliff, or I put them in touch, or he asked me, but I actually can't remember that now.
Yeah.
But the basis of that book you're thinking of is actually Cliff Jenks's work, and I think Cliff is listed as as a co-author at least.
Yes. Yes. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I knew it was Cliff and someone else. I thought it was Cliff and yourself, but
It's Cliff and Phil Easterman, who was
yeah.
the owner of the company in France who did these small books.
Ah. Right.
And
Got you.
my part was just offering opinions on things and doing the color illustrations.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then, was it last year or the year before you came out with the Corsair book?
Uh, the Corsair book's an interesting one. Um, I would say a decade before it came out, I'd been just discussing this idea with Robert Montgomery,
Yep.
who people will be familiar with. Robert still lives in Blenheim. He's in a retirement village now, but then he and his wife Linda lived in Blenheim in a just normal family home.
Yep.
And I visited them several times over the years. Well, sorry, maybe twice. But he and I thought, okay, we'll do a Corsair book. He sent me several drafts in succession, but of course, like a lot of amateur publications, you simply want to make it the best you can.
Yep.
And So, I'll just add a bit more milk, a bit more and a bit more.
Yeah.
Then when the lockdown, COVID came along, I just contacted Robert and said, Robert, we're going to go. And he said, okay.
Fair enough.
But let me read it before you print. No, don't worry. I think by that time he was really losing his eyesight, and it was becoming difficult.
Yeah.
But with the help of his wife and what have you, we sort of did the whole thing. And when the book was actually published in 2021, unfortunately, by that stage of the actual printing, Robert had lost his eyesight.
Right.
So he has never actually seen the book. He's held copies in his hand, of course, and
Right.
had people, including myself, describe what's in it to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit of a sad thing in that because we're delayed for so long just with other things and wanting to make it better and better, it was delayed for that decade, and Robert never actually saw his own book.
Oh gosh, that is a shame. And
It
it's a
is, yeah.
fantastic book. Fantastic book.
Uh, it's yeah, it's really good, and it's a worthy contribution, Dave.
Yep.
It is worthy. Um,
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just make a couple of extra points. One about the cover, and one about how between each short print run, I only printed 100 at a time.
Yeah.
With the cover, I couldn't obtain a really good period color photograph, or couldn't obtain anything suitable.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not a fan of colorization per se. So I colorized the cover, and I think you may have been the guy who suggested this particular photo, or
Yes.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it might have just come on the Air Force website or something. But let's say it was your idea, which
Well, I do remember this because I
yeah.
had colorized it myself,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah,
you said, "Oh, can I use that on the cover?" But
yeah.
it was actually a bit too small for use on the cover, and
Oh,
you
yeah,
said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll do it myself." And I was like,
yeah, yeah. Because
"Okay, that's good.
in
It came out well."
colorizing things, yeah, I like to stop short. I don't like to push on to get to the stage where you might actually fool someone.
Yeah.
So if you look at that colorized picture, if you look at the cockpit, and I think there might be bits of engine exposed, and you look in the background, you can quickly work out that it is colorized and
Yep.
not period color.
Yep.
So I'm not actually a big fan of colorization, as it can, if it's too good, it'll start lying to you.
Yeah, to be honest,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely the same. I enjoy doing it occasionally just for something to do, like as an artwork, but
Mm.
I'm not a fan of seeing other people using it as a historical type thing because it's like lying almost.
Yeah,
Um,
yes, you can't be absolutely sure. And
yeah,
like in the Kittyhawk book, if you look at the cover on your one, you see as you look between the I'm just looking down at it now.
yeah,
There's always guys standing in their flying gear. If you look past them along the ground, the plane that's behind them, there's like you can see the tire of the Kittyhawk. I
yeah,
haven't colorized that area at all, so
right.
you very quickly work out that this is colorized.
Yes, yes,
And in the description of the cover picture, I say this is a colorized or partially colorized photograph.
right.
And
Yep, and that's a
just
good
on
way to go.
the printing the 100 books at a time, one or two people sort of come back to me and said, "Oh, I wouldn't have bought the first edition if I'd known you're going to do this." I said, "Well, part of the reason for printing 100 at a time is I was fairly sure in my own mind that there would be errors in it, and some people might come up with better photographs later." As
Yes,
it turned out, between the first and second printings, there was one incorrectly spelt word where, say, I had the word, say it was great, as in a great person, where it should have been great, as in a fire grate.
right,
Uh, there's a very trivial spelling mistake along those lines. And there was one pilot where I'd said, "Oh, this is like," say I'd said it's John Peter Smith. And another part of the book, I had said, "This is Peter Smith," or
right.
J. Peter Smith.
Yep.
There were two very trivial errors which I repaired between the first printing and the one that came after. And if people do have, there have been 400 printed so far. If you've got books from the the third and fourth printings of 100, you'll see that the Air Force was coming out with better scans of various photographs and what have you. So I just swapped them out. If
Right.
I could put in a better print of a photograph or just a photograph that better illustrated something, then I'd do it. So the books aren't really better than one or the other, but they are a bit different. And the quality of the information or the quality, the text has not really improved. It's apart from those two minor corrections. I might have changed things a bit because my opinion changed, but that's only my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think there's one photograph where I changed my opinion about where a photograph was. So I changed the caption and maybe in brackets put, and another source says,
Yeah.
say if I thought, oh, I think this is Espiritu Santo,
Yeah.
whereas previously it had said Bougainville, I'd say, oh, blah, blah, blah on Espiritu Santo, and in brackets or in a footnote or some such thing, another source says Bougainville, so
Right.
it's, yeah, but it is kind of a living document. And the current print batch. I think the Air Force Museum may have one or two left, and that's about it.
Okay. So do you think there'll be more of the Corsair book printed?
I had done another titivation, and it's just sitting there in the background.
Yeah.
But I had hoped that the Kittyhawk, well, the Corsair book sold well all around the world, and particularly to the United States.
Yeah.
And I thought the Kittyhawk will do the same, except when this whole tariff thing they've got going on
Oh,
over
yeah.
there now. Since the tariff things came on, and I have not sold a single book to the United States of the Kittyhawk book.
Wow.
Uh, and I'm fairly sure that eBay has yet to incorporate the tariffs in their site. And of course, they're not really trying to satisfy foreigners selling stuff into the United States.
Yeah.
And also, I haven't checked in the last week, but I believe that the post office has been asked to incorporate the tariffs when you buy postage in New Zealand. So once that's sorted out, then I can just start selling to the United States in a seamless manner.
Okay.
But yeah, at the moment, we just got to hang tough and get the whole tariff thing sorted out. Because,
So hopefully you're not going to have to find a Mexican to smuggle a box of them over the border.
oh, I don't think, no, no. I, I think the whole tariff thing for New Zealand, I think it might only be 15%.
Oh, okay.
It's not really a big deal money-wise. It's just the aggravation of getting it sorted.
Yep.
And with modern software, once the post office or eBay, whoever gets it sorted so it's seamlessly taken care of, then really I don't see it as being a significant issue in selling a low-value item like a book or a decal sheet. It just isn't sorted as yet.
Yep.
For,
Okay.
for a book, say the book is, if it's 60 American dollars, that's a rough translation, 60 American dollars, and with a 15% tariff, oh God, let's say it was $100 and 15% would be $15 more.
Yeah. Yeah.
For $100 item, 15 more from New Zealand, it's less than the postage, it's less than a courier. So
Yeah.
I don't see it as an issue going forward. It just needs to be sorted out so it can happen seamlessly.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
So Pacific Kittyhawk, you started sending them out last week, I think, the pre-orders and
Yeah, a week or two ago. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Again, I
And
just printed 100. I might be able to add a couple of extra footnotes in the future, but and I think you might have brought me up to speed or reminded me about Esmali a little bit.
yes,
So I
yes,
may or
yes.
may not change it.
Yeah.
But it'll be very trivial changes. I think I've still got 25 or 30 just sitting there. So, but I'll let them sell out and then ponder what to do.
Okay.
And hopefully the American tariff thing will be incorporated seamlessly by then. So yeah, and like the Air Force Museum, they've got 10. I mean, they are quite expensive, really,
Yeah.
but each one costs more than $30 just to print.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
It's
the
really
thing is
expensive.
the thing is though that it's a really nice book. It's a really good book. well researched. It's yourself and David Duxbury, who's just a absolute mine of information when it comes
mm.
to anything in the RNZF, but particularly Kittyhawks. I've actually had him on 3 times, I think, on this podcast talking about P40 history. And um, you guys have put together an absolutely fantastic book. It's 134 pages, I think it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Lots of color photos and color plates, and
Mm, mm.
um, and this, as you say, a lot of the photos are from the Air Force Museum collection, but there's a lot of photos in there that I hadn't seen before too, a number
Mm,
of them. So
mm.
I found that one really interesting, the bare metal one with the American roundels on it that had become a um, ATC aircraft.
Yeah, yeah. The Air Training Corps was using it just to play with and practice on.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
previously, it had been just been a hack up in the islands. It ended up sort of being taken over by the Americans. I think in his little story about it, David Duxbury said, "Oh, the Americans kidnapped it." I think
Yeah,
it broke down in some location and was separated from the New Zealanders. But yeah, as a chap named Marty Muller, who sent those two photographs side by side to me, and it kind of instantly made sense of the brief history of that aircraft, which
yeah.
is partly on, is it afd.com.au, AFD serial, sorry,
Yep.
.com.au, and extra research by
ADF,
Duxbury.
ADF.
ADF serials, yeah.
Yep.
That's a tremendous effort, that website.
It really is. It
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is.
yeah. Hopefully they'll read this book and they'll update one or two things which we don't agree with on their websites.
Yeah, well, things are happening with that site. They've just upgraded it, and I know there's going to be a lot more updates coming very soon.
Oh,
I've been talking with Liz that runs the New Zealand side of things, and it's gonna get a lot better, even though it's a
oh,
brilliant
okay.
site.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, yeah.
um,
I mean,
it,
what? Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say it was down for a few weeks. It went offline for a few weeks,
Mhm.
and it was amazing how many times that I went to, oh, just go to ADF Serials. Oh, damn, it's not working.
Mm,
It becomes such a good reference.
yeah. Well, hopefully they will go to our book and tune up their brief histories a little bit. I mean, they wouldn't want to put in all of our long stories because we have some stories are like half a page long
Yeah,
on individual aircraft, which is kind of, it's getting well past what their intention is.
yeah,
And like in the book, um, I don't have, or we don't have individual stuff about every airframe. We only try and cover where there was a crash or a significant incident. There's
yeah,
the chapter with the small histories. It's called The Cost. So it's all about the crashes and the fatalities and things like that.
yeah.
It's not trying to be ADF serials. They're a different idea.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what was for you in writing this book and putting this book together? What was the sort of big surprises that you came across that you didn't know?
The pleasant surprise is that by interacting with David Duxbury and also Chris Rudge, who wrote Air to Air,
Yeah,
we were able to accurately date various photographs. And by accurately dating a relatively small number of photographs, either they were air-to-air photographs on the day of a particular mission,
yeah,
or they were say a crash-landed plane on a particular day at a particular airfield. We could sort out when various marking changes appear to have taken place.
right, right.
So I was shifting around when like the tiny red dot roundels appeared, um, when the bars first appeared on the roundels, when the various changes in the theatre stripes, where theatre stripes were applied, like on Espiritu Santo or back in New Zealand,
Yeah,
and did a given batch of planes fly up to the islands with just roundels, or did they have roundels and bars, or did they have roundels and bars and stripes? And where, or even did they fly up to the islands with roundels, bars, theatre stripes, and white tails?
yeah,
There's one batch of planes that flew up in November and they did not have white tails. And these photographs have been a real anomaly. And I was on the verge of swearing black and blue that these planes must have been photographed, say, in October or even earlier. So,
Yeah.
I was trying to make sense of the fact they didn't have white tails, but it seems they flew from New Zealand to Espiritu Santo without white tails, and the white tails were painted on the aircraft on Espiritu Santo, and then they flew forward to Guadalcanal.
Okay.
So they flew up in November 1943 without white tails, although the first recorded white tails are in mid to late August 1943. So
Right.
it's just an interesting thing of, because when the plane was in a given spot on a given day, and there's the photograph. Ah, well, I know that plane was on Espiritu Santo on November November the 10th, 1943, and it
Yeah.
had no white tail. Therefore, the white tail was painted on in that spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's great when you can connect the dots like that when you're doing this sort of research, and
Oh, yes. Yeah. In
it's
some
wonderful.
ways, it's actually a bit of a relief. Otherwise, you're stuck with an anomaly which is not explained.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Hmm.
Um, so I think you've got a number of sets of decals with Kiwi Kittyhawks. Do you plan to do more in the future with
Um,
with the release of the book, or?
uh, I've when you print decals, as I said to you before, you print a sheet with the lots of colors, then you'll print a sheet with, say, just black on it.
Yeah.
And I've printed a sheet for the trainer types. I'm just going to pick up the book. I'll show people on screen.
Sure.
Where are we? Oops, flip passes. Some trainer and gunnery training school schemes. Where are we? Oh, yeah, the most recent ones are these kind of, oh, wrong page altogether there. Sorry, bear with me, Dave.
Yep,
This
no worries.
massive book is 134 pages long, so it's
Exactly. Exactly.
taking me a while to wade through. Where is it? Yeah. While I'm sorting that out, the Corsair book, because it had the biographies of Robert Montgomery and a one-page piece about David Duxbury in the back, that book used up 6 pages on the biographies, whereas I don't really want to have a biography of me in a book. It's sort of I don't know. I feel it's just not my kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I put a small piece at the very beginning on the title page about myself and David. So that effectively in this book there are 6 more pages of content.
Ah,
But
right. Okay.
I've drawn decals for these yellow squadron code planes,
Right.
and the black part of the decals has yet to be printed, just the way the colors and printing the black turned out. So I've actually got those decals printed, but not all the black serials and what have you that go with them just yet.
Gotcha.
And to make the best use of the black, I think on the sheet that those decals that subject matter ends up in, I'll print a lot of extra of those new RNZAF stencil style serials that were applied on a wide variety of types. So rather than just a little block of half a dozen serial numbers, it will be, say, the equivalent of a third of a full decal sheet, of which a small part is dedicated serial numbers, and the rest is just NZs and numbers 0 up to 9, with
Right.
a preponderance of 3s and 2s and 4s and what have you for Mustangs and P40s.
Right.
But
Right.
I can't give a date from when that'll be out. It just has to wait for the time being.
Yep. Yep. But I mean, some of those home-based, New Zealand-based, particularly the Ohakea color schemes of aircraft that never even went overseas at any point. They just stayed there as trainers, operational trainers. Some of those color schemes were fantastic, and they got quite a variety of different with repaints and touch-ups and all that sort of thing, and changes of codes. They got a variety of different color schemes on any sort of individual aircraft, and they didn't seem to have a lot of uniformity, if you know what I mean. There was I'd love to see a color photo of the flight line there. I've never found a decent color photo, or even a black and white photo showing the variety, but you look at individual ones and there's a lot of difference across the spectrum of those P40s.
Yes, there sure is. And I think in you and I corresponding, we were discussing whether given aircraft ever got repainted. And it does seem that quite a few just arrived in olive drab and the medium grey undersurfaces, and there was no need to ever repaint them.
Yes.
Whereas other ones sort of got repainted multiple times as they
Yep.
got slightly pranged and repaired and whatever.
Exactly.
I'll just show you something I already put this page up on the internet anyway, as an early teaser. This page here, it's got the blue-grey scheme with the red codes from Mohakia.
Yep.
And this photograph here, I mean, people can go into the Facebook page and track it down, but that photograph was taken by Don Noble.
Right.
People will recognize that name. And might be 25, even 30 years ago. And a long time ago, when he sent me that photograph along with a wartime colorized picture of P40s.
Right.
And that photograph that's been really good in that it explains a lot of things and how that aircraft was originally olive drab. It had various either Sky Type S or New Zealand Sky Grey codes on it. Then it was repainted the blue grey, and then it had the red codes applied on top of that. And you can see in the photograph, it's such a good picture, you can see how the paint is flaked off. And it matches up with a comment that Charles Darby noted when he was at Rukahia. And in his notebooks, he wrote that these aircraft that were, he knew that they had been green and brown.
Yeah.
He said, on the brown paint in particular, there's this luxuriant, mossy type stuff appearing, licheny stuff.
Yeah.
And the brown paint gets this almost fluorescent green on it. And he said, what has been the green paint, it gets muddier and muddier and starts to look brown. So,
oh, wow.
He's sort of pointing out that areas that he knew they had been green and brown,
yeah,
but they had sort of in a way become reversed. And in that particular photograph I showed you, you can see this bright fluorescent, what is the term? Not lichen or moss, the word's slipping my mind. But you can see this bright fluorescent green stuff.
Yeah.
And you can also see where the layers of paint have been one over top of the other, and just how the really poor quality New Zealand paint falls off, leaving this really good quality American olive drab underneath. And Robert Montgomery also pointed out to me, and that in his visits to Rukahia, he said he was poo-pooing people that underplay the amount of blue-grey paint there was. He said, Malcolm, if I saw a red code, the red paint would be in really good condition, and it would be so often it would be over top of the blue-grey. So the idea that there were red codes and then blue-grey was painted over top of that, and then more red codes painted onto, that was not the case.
Okay.
There was a red code, it was on top of the blue-grey. Of course, that's only planes that he saw.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it had stuck in his mind. And when some commentators would say, oh, they were never repainted, and say, well, I was there and I saw it. Yeah. And I've got a color photograph from the 60s to a high standard showing the blue-grey. So it's a real thing.
I mean, it's amazing when I love the Rukahia photos. I've collected a number of them, and there's some really good coloured ones that have come up. John Smith's collection had, I don't know, 30 or 40 coloured slides that are just incredible. And there are certain aircraft that you look at, and if you go to Omaka right now and have a look at NZ3043, which is being restored at the moment by John Saunders and Mike Nichols, um, you can see all those different layers of paint. You can see the original factory paint of green and brown, and then on top of that, there's the remains of that Pacific blue grey, the New Zealand blue grey scheme. You can see different markings of HQ from when it was with 14 Squad and FE when
Yeah.
it was with
Yeah.
the OTU, and
Mm.
yeah, it's you could see its history all right there, and they're planning to preserve all that and actually fly the aircraft with that
Mm.
original paint, which is it's going to be so different from every other P40 that has been restored to fly, and they all get a nice pristine paint job. This is going to have the original paint job, and all the new bits are going to be made to look like the old paint job. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Mm.
But when I this afternoon I put out a thing on the forum just to say I was going to interview you tonight, and has anyone got any questions for you? One of them I've actually already asked. Kerry Carlisle asked about your 3D printing journey so far, but you've answered that already.
It was very minimal indeed.
Yeah,
A non-event.
yeah, okay. Antonio McDonald said he's got a purely selfish question. Would you be interested in doing a decal set that covers either the P40 NZ3031, which is the Wainui Amata crash aircraft, or SBD5 NZ5062, which is the aircraft still flying now with the Planes of Fame Museum in Chino?
Okay.
And he said, if you are, he wants them in 72nd and 32nd, please.
Yeah. Well, regards the P40, as long as it's a reasonably interesting scheme, I guess it's got, would it be an HQ scheme or FE? Yeah, I mean,
just trying to remember which one.
yeah. Just say to Antonio, we've corresponded by email,
Yep.
and he contributed. I think he's contributed 2 photos to the book. I think
Okay.
so.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's 2. Sure, just tell him to just when you see this, Antonio, just flick us an email and we'll take it from there. Regarding the Planes of Fame Dauntless, one thing I'm sort of really not wanting to do is markings of aircraft as the restored aircraft,
Right.
as they're not real period schemes.
Yeah.
But the 48th scale Dauntless sheet, I think I got about 3 left of the current print run, and it's a sheet that it had, I think there's like 11 colors on it. I think, oh, don't want to print that one again. So when that one's gone, then sure, we'll have to ponder another RNZAF Dauntless set of decals.
Okay.
But interesting, like 48th scale is the #1 seller, and then 32nd scale are now bigger than 72nd scale.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
again, it doesn't really matter because I'm just doing it as I want to.
Yeah.
And so it'd be a bit, as long as the scheme that's being suggested is not an as restored scheme, it's an original period scheme from wartime.
Right. Antonio's last question, and I probably should make it the last question for you because I've kept you for a long time now, but are there any other RNZAF books on the horizon?
There is a Catalina book, which is based on an original manuscript by Warren Russell.
Yep.
And being done in concert with the Aviation Historical Society. We're at the point now where we really need to get better photographs of some periods of aircraft. I believe they're out there, and AHS members are burrowing away to bring up their better scans and just send them through. And I have Warren Russell's contact details, so I must phone him and just sound him out about how the Catalina is not really enough for a full-length book. we can kind of stretch it, but that's you don't really want to do that because you end up having a repetition of very similar pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sound him out about incorporating some of his other writings as, like, say, extended appendices on, I'll say, the servicing units. Well, that's more suited to something else, but just other aspects of his writing that might run to, say, 5 pages worth.
Yeah.
On that scheme to put tiger moths and Harvards into emergency use as actual warplanes.
Yep.
Yeah, but anyway, yes, a book on the Catalinas is next up, and it will be Ventura Publications in association with the Aviation Historical Society, and the society is going to buy the first short print run of 100, and we'll just see what happens after that. If those 100 are taken up by members, then I'll just print some more on my own account, and people can just take it from there.
Right.
But again, it really is more of a public service than anything, as it's all very specialized, but we want to do it to a high standard and not have people come back in 10 years' time and say, well, you could have done better than that. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
of course, each book has an international standard book number, and it has a barcode. And of course, we provide 2 copies to the Legal Deposit Office here in Wellington.
Yep.
So these books are in the National Archives and will be there for years to come.
Brilliant. And I knew that you'd already told me about this project, and I'm really pleased to hear that it's going to happen, because I don't know when it was, but it was the late 80s or early 90s that Warren's book was announced that he was working on it, and I've been waiting for it ever since. And
okay.
And his Corsair book is just absolutely fantastic, and your Corsair book that's come along afterwards, yours and Robert's, makes the perfect couple of books. And now this new book, the Kittyhawk Warhawk book, is the perfect companion to Chris Rudge's Air to Air.
Indeed.
I think those two those two go so well together, and I think what you're doing is just brilliant work, Malcolm. It really is.
Oh, thanks very much, Dave. I'll just make a couple of points about the 2 existing Ventura books.
Mm-hmm.
With the Corsair book, you're quite right. Then, as a companion to Warren Russell's book, where Warren gives the individual histories of each plane.
Yep.
So they're a bit difficult to track down, but you can do it. So if you've got Robert Montgomery's book, which I put out through Ventura, and have it besides Warren Russell's 1980s book, they don't overlap totally. It's not like one's an improvement on the other. They can be used as companion books.
Yeah.
And also with the Kittyhawk book, we expanded out the individual histories part to some extent. But if you read that beside ADF serials, and Chris Rudge's book, I made a point about not going over the history of the planes too much.
Yep.
And I think I put in a footnote somewhere near the beginning of the operational chapter, say, well, if you really want to read more, buy Chris Rudge's book, as it's the best thing out there.
It is.
So, with my operational part, it's really just a brief timeline, so you can place what squadron was in what location at what time, and just a very brief outline of what they did. And tie in that with Chris Rudge's book, and you've pretty well got it covered. And the individual histories, tie that in with is it AFD or ADF serials?
AD, it's ADF, Australian Defence
ADF.
Force, but the New Zealand section is actually NZDF serials. So
okay.
It's all under ADF though.
Okay.
I'll put a link in the show notes, so don't worry.
Great. Yeah. Okay, but so it's good to have these books not covering too much ground that's well covered elsewhere,
Yeah.
but adding something new. And with the P40s, the camouflaging markings is a much bigger part of it compared with the Corsair book, which is, you've got 2 schemes plus some repaints.
Yep.
Whereas the P40s, there's just so much variety and the
Absolutely.
progression with time.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And just let people know how they can get hold of you and look at your website, all that sort of thing.
Sorry, say that again, please.
To tell people how they can get your website. Where's your website and all that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the website's venturapublications.com. I'm in the process, or I've recently had it put beside one of these sort of anti-spam type pieces of software, and I found people who went to the website even 2 years ago. If any links have been saved in your browser history, the site just won't work at the moment for you. So you've got to make sure you actually start clean on the homepage. And there's a particular command called the Zenid command, which is a spammer's favorite. So if you have trouble with our website, I'm very sorry, but it's because you've been there in the past and your browser history is upsetting the apple cart. So if you're interested in the book or any of the decals, just send me an email and I'll just send you an invoice, or you can go on Trade Me and the stuff's all there as well.
So for those who can't get onto the website, just give the email now.
Yeah. So it's info@venturapublications.com. Or if you want something shorter to type, you can type malcolm@laird.info. I mean, I'll reply from info@venturapublications.com. But, years ago, I registered the domain name laird.info just so if people asked for an email address, I could give them a nice, short, easy one.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much, Malcolm. It's been a pleasure to chat with you about your quite interesting and quite a unique career, really.
Well, I kind of stumbled along, Dave. So yeah, thanks very much for having me. And yeah, I've really enjoyed listening to your other interviews of people, particularly veterans and what have you. And of course, your interviews with David Duxbury. They're really great. So
thank you.
Thanks, and we'll talk again sometime. Bye.
Awesome. Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks, Mel.
Bye.
Bye.
That was the Wings Over New Zealand show with Dave Homewood.